from the National Park Service, seed provenance and restoration and improvement National Park. And I'll just sort of the slides just started. Okay, and this should be for you.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome to Golden Gate. It's kind of cool that I get to be the first one up here to welcome you to the park. My name is Erik Grijalva. I'm the vegetation ecologist for the park, the supervisory vegetation ecologist. What that means is I supervise a team of biologists, ecologists, and interns up and down the 3 counties of the park. And I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of the park to start off with, just to contextualize kind of the conundrums that we're facing here. But mostly we are looking at something that's a little smaller scale than perhaps some of the issues that you're looking at. And we, 3 of us, are here today, are mostly here to kind of glean information from these subject lines and see how applicable they are for our park. And I just want to introduce a couple of people here that have contributed to this presentation. Erik Grijalva, back over here, our biologist and botanist for San Mateo County, all the lands within San Mateo County. And Desmond Murray back here. Desmond, what's your actual title with the Conservancy?
Seed ecologist.
Seed ecologist with the nursery program. The Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy, our nonprofit partner, has a nursery program that I'll talk about later. Desmond is the seed ecologist associated with that. So we're very keen to glean information from all of you. And just by way of locating where you are right now, you're right here. Yeah.
So right to the right.
Are we way over here?
Yeah.
This is the first time I've actually come to this particular campus. This is the YMCA for a year and a half ago or so. It became part of Nature Bridge and was opened up to things like this. So, yeah. Have you guys gotten to explore a little bit around? Excellent. Yeah, so this is our park. We have a number of different park properties that constitute the entirety of our park. 36 individual park properties spread from essentially up to from Tamal's Bay down near Half Moon Bay. And that encompasses 3 different counties and 80,000 acres or so. All of that is not under management. Some of that is what's called legislative properties, which include some of our neighboring partnerships and are kind of designated to the extent that should we have the money, should they not want to steward those lands, the National Park Service could take ownership of those lands and then manage them in perpetuity. But these are the lands that we typically manage. And we share some management up here with Point Reyes National Sea. But you can tell that we are a coastally influenced series of properties for the most part. We have some slightly inland areas, but that's mostly our purview. 3 counties, 60 miles. We have over 3,100 plant and animal species. So we have a very rich and diverse habitat assemblage and species assemblage here that we're tasked with stewarding. And one of the key things about that is that we are very much integrated with a highly urbanized environment. So this is a fragmented habitat that has constant influence by the urban environment. We have a lot of shoreline, so the marine influence is key. And especially in Marin and San Francisco, a lot of our properties are right on the shoreline. So we go right to the intertidal and include the intertidal. And we're the 2nd most visited park in the National Park Service, behind the Blue Ridge Parkway. So more than Yellowstone, more than Grand Canyon and the like. Mostly because we are right next to San Francisco. And a lot of people consider the park and its properties their backyard. There's a lot of possessiveness for our neighbors and visitors. They have multi-generational connection to the different areas of this park. What you see around you right now, this military installation, there are military connections, there are streets named for people all around here whose families still visit, who donate to the park in trusts related to different aspects of management of the park. So there's a really integrated community all around what we do here. My program, the vegetation program, supports kind of all of the ecology of the park. Obviously, you need a healthy, diverse vegetation community to support all the wildlife in the park and what visitors see. Some of our funding is specifically geared towards visitor experience in the park. And so we have to foster a diverse plant community in the park to support people coming to see coyotes and birds. So we have to do it kind of subtly to enhance the overall experience of park visitors. But these are pictures of some of our volunteers, some of our interns, some of our biologists doing seed installations, seed collections, doing some planting work. It's a key aspect of the kind of restoration work we do around all of our properties and all of our different habitats. We do that work in close coordination with the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy's nursery program. We have historically had 4 different nurseries spread out around the park that the Conservancy manages. They do seed harvest along with our own park seed collection teams, and they do the grow outs. We do thousands, tens of thousands, and in the case of, I don't know if you've ever visited it, but you should if you haven't, tunnel tops in San Francisco, hundreds of thousands of plants are grown out by the nursery system. And so we make plant requests that attend a lot of the restoration work that we do, and so plant collection goes on, probably collection goes on around the park in response to that need. The way that propagule collection has gone on in the park is the result of a kind of iterative process that preceded my time here. And kind of as you review some of the documentation around how the seed program developed and what its kind of principles are, you can see these kinds of milestones within that process. It was national parks kind of came together and started talking about genetic provenancing in 2005. We had an analysis of what we were doing here in the park in 2014, a kind of summary of the latest understanding of provenancing and genetic movement of propagules within the park. We put out a nursery manual that, in combination with the National Parks Conservancy, the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy, in 2016, that kind of codified some of that information and brought it into something that was useful by the nurseries. Some of the folks that are in the room began analyzing the Seeds of Change tool and the opportunity to develop this tool for the use in the park for seeing where seeds collected in one area of the park might be best placed. Another policy document was generated in 2019 based on kind of all that preceding. And where we're at right now is that post-COVID, 2 of the nurseries were shut down from the Conservancy based on lack of visitorship in the park. Most of the funding comes from visitors coming to the park, and so COVID impinged on that flow of funds, and the Conservancy had to re-establish their business model, and 2 of the nurseries that we typically work with have been shut down since. And there was a whole host of other kind of reshufflings that happened as a result of COVID, which I'm sure everybody understands and has experienced it. And so, coming out of that, and last year, we put together the Restoration Integrity Committee to get some of the folks together from the Conservancy's program and the practitioners on the field that are doing this kind of work, and try to understand exactly where we are, what we need to be thinking about in the way that we collect seed, and the way that we put seed out in restoration settings. Some of that has to do with simply the logistics of having less staff and less nurseries and trying to approach putting maximal benefit on the landscape. But some of it also involves, are we actually being a little bit too restrictive in the way that we are holding to some of the ideas that we have? Speed. So there are different ways to look at seed zones and how you collect them. We've been wrangling with this a little bit within the park because of our geography. Is our geography large enough to kind of think about seed zones as restrictively as we have? Are we perhaps translating ideas more relevant to larger distributional areas to our smaller geographic area that may not be appropriate for what we're doing? And these are the this is not a great slide, but we have typically broken our seed collection zones up into watersheds and sub-watersheds within our park. And so we're down here, and this is the Rodeo Valley watershed, and we've broken up into sub-watersheds, all of the parks of Rodeo Valley. So that becomes very restrictive when you're trying to do restoration within one of those sub-watersheds and you're trying to collect from that sub-watershed. Is that a relevant approach to be using going forward when we're doing restoration and seed collection? Is the key question. So there's lots of different ways that you can provenance, think about provenancing, and I think we are moving towards a place where we are doing composite provenancing across our park, and in some cases in adjacent landscapes. We haven't really implemented this yet. It takes a kind of logistics shift that we haven't fully brought, but we have kind of moved towards that direction where we're thinking about, look, we have a system that is highly altered already. The fidelity of some of these genetic lines is questionable, and how much any one population is locally adapted is kind of up in the air. Erik Grijalva used the Seeds of Change tool to look at some historic trends for a representative species here and Phacelia californica, and to try and get an idea of whether or not the Seeds of Change tool can tell us anything about should we be moving things around for climate change, to predict for climate change predictions. And it has a number of different criteria that you can input, and Erik looked at the change in up till now, essentially, or up till 2010, in our climate zones, using Land's End, which is kind of right in the middle of our park, as the focal point. We found not a lot of change over that time, and going forward, also not a ton of change up through 2070. And there are some slight changes happening down in Flaker, which is a redwood forest. But overall, we're not seeing dramatic changes within the geography of our park to justify being really kind of assiduous with where we put plants and how we move things around. Thinking maybe the plants that we have here are suitable for most of the places within the park. We can move things around. Erik also looked at some other kind of species that are pretty typical across our landscape and found similar trends. Obviously, the 260 some odd species that we collect propagules for, actually there's more than that, but those are the ones that we have requested more than 10 times in the last couple of years. So 260 species. Individually, there might be some that we would want to look a little closer at, but overall, our understanding has evolved to the fact that maybe we could be mixing around, maybe we could be using a larger genetic reservoir. Obviously, there's still some risks in certain areas that we need to be concerned about, so we're eager to hear today about kind of thinking on those things. We have, as you probably well know, a number of bureaucratic and administrative issues that we're working through. Expertise is disappearing and leaving the park, and expertise is basically doing the Park Service, and so that is a real key to how we move forward. We're trying to kind of harness what we have and maintain as much as we can. And then Desmond's a great spokesperson for this, if you get a chance to talk to him about the logistical constraints on trying to harvest over a wider versus a smaller, and how that actually affects what you can actually do on the ground in terms of growing things out, collecting seed. We do have a seed amplification effort for some of our seeds over in Woodland, where we collect seeds and have them grown out specifically for amplification, so we can put that out in the landscape. But we have lost nursery capacity and staffing in the nurseries, and that continues to be an issue. So we're continuing to revise our seed collection protocol through this year. We're keen to get any information from you all today that is relevant for our park. We are mostly of the mind that north to south is not really our concern along the coast in terms of genetic fidelity. We do have some elevational gradients in the south and maybe around Marin that we would want to be cognizant of. It's not ginormous, but it is relevant in some cases for some species. And we're not seeing big population shifts that we think are relevant for our particular geology right now. So thanks.